every curse can be broken. Remember those words. They come from Maman Sage. Every curse, even one sealed with blood, even one buried beneath a doorstep, even one whispered into the ear of the dead. But for some people, it is already too late. He came to me on a moonless night. He did not walk, they carried him. 2 men held him beneath the arms as though his body no longer belonged to the living. His name was Elias, 42 years old. His eyes were open, yet they were not looking at me. They were fixed on the dark corner behind my chair, the corner where everyone else saw nothing. His skin had the color of old ashes. His lips were split. Across his neck crawled strange black markings, not bruises, not wounds, symbols, thin, twisted symbols beneath the skin, as if someone had carved them from inside his flesh. His mother could barely stop crying. His wife never shed a tear. She stood beside the door with her hands folded over her stomach, pale, silent. Then she finally spoke. "Someone cursed him." I looked into her eyes. "When did it begin?" She never answered. Instead, Elias opened his mouth. A voice came out. It was not his, dry, ancient, female. "It began on the 3rd night after the funeral." The room turned cold. Every candle shrank. None of them went out. Their flames simply became small, blue, and hungry. "What funeral?" I asked. His mother screamed. His wife finally broke into tears. That was the moment I understood. They had not come to save a dying man. They had come to bargain with death itself. Elias had found something in the cemetery, a small black pouch, bound with red thread, hidden beneath his father's gravestone. Inside were strands of hair, human fingernails, grave soil, and a tiny wax figure. It had no face, only a long iron needle driven through its mouth. He made the mistake the living always make. He touched it with his bare hands. On the 3rd night, he heard footsteps inside his house. On the 4th, voices whispered beneath his bed. On the 5th, he found his dead father standing in the kitchen, facing the wall. On the 6th, the black symbols appeared across his throat. On the 7th, he stopped eating. On the 8th, he smelled like freshly opened earth, like a grave after rain. I ordered everyone to remain silent. When death is listening, grief only feeds it. We laid Elias upon my old wooden table. He felt impossibly light, too light, like someone had already stolen part of his soul. To break the curse, I needed 3 things: soil from a grave that refused its dead, water from a place where no living soul drinks, and a thread taken from the clothing of someone who died with their eyes still open. I never told his family. People come asking for miracles. They never ask what miracles cost. First, I went to the cemetery. It was past midnight. The gates were locked, but cemeteries are never closed to those who know where the dead have weakened the walls. I entered through a broken section near the oldest graves. I carried a lantern, a knife, salt, and a small iron trowel. I was not looking for a fresh grave. I was looking for a restless one. I found it at the far end of the cemetery, where the names on the stones had been swallowed by moss. The grave had sunk inward, but the soil on top of it was moving slowly, as if something underneath was breathing. There was no name on the stone, only a date, and 3 words scratched deep into the surface. "Do not leave me here." I pushed the trowel into the earth. From below came a knock. Once, then again, then 3 more times. I struck the stone with my knife in answer. The old rules are clear. When the dead knock, you do not ask who is there. You take what you came for and you leave.
I filled the pouch with soil. That was when something whispered behind me, "Maman, sage." It had my father's voice. My father had been dead for 30 years. I did not turn around. The dead love the backs of the living. That is where they climb on most easily. I walked toward the gate, step by step. Behind me, I heard footsteps, small ones, wet ones, childlike. They followed me through the graves. I did not stop. I did not look. I threw salt over my left shoulder. A scream tore through the cemetery. Not human, not animal. Something between a cat, a newborn, and fabric being ripped apart. Then silence fell so suddenly that even my own breathing sounded wrong. I left with the soil, but as I crossed the broken wall, my lantern flickered. For 1 second, the cemetery behind me was filled with people, standing between the graves, all of them facing me, all of them smiling, and all of them had their mouths sewn shut. The second ingredient was worse. Water from a place where no living soul drinks. There is an old well 3 miles from the village, covered in weeds, forgotten by maps, cursed by every grandmother who still remembers why children were forbidden to play near it. People say a bride once fell into that well. She did not fall. She was thrown on the morning of her wedding. Since then, the water does not reflect your face. It reflects how you will look after death. When I reached it, the fog lay low over the ground. The well stood among black trees and thorn bushes. I lowered a copper cup by a rope. I waited for the sound of water. There was no splash, only a sigh, a long one from far below. When I pulled the cup back up, it was full. The water was black. Hair floated inside it, long, female, wrapped around the rim like fingers. I tried to peel it away. It tightened around my hand. Then I saw my reflection, not my living face. I saw myself sitting inside my own house, mouth open, eyes without eyelids. And behind me stood Elias, dead, smiling, holding a little wax figure. It had my face. I shattered the reflection with my knife. The well screamed. The ground moved beneath my feet. Something began scratching from inside the stones. Scratching, scratching, scratching. Not to get in, to get out. I took the water and left, slowly. Never run from something that has no legs. It takes offense. The third ingredient waited for me in the morgue. The morgue was quieter than a church, too quiet. The kind of silence that presses against your ears until you begin hearing things that should not exist. The night attendant knew me. He had seen enough over the years to stop asking questions. He unlocked the steel door without speaking. The smell hit me first. Bleach, cold metal, and something older. The scent of the last breath a body never truly lets go. The man I had come for was lying alone. An old widower found seated in his kitchen 3 days earlier, still holding his rosary. His eyes had never closed. That was what I needed. Someone who had died while still staring into the world. The attendant pulled back the sheet. My stomach tightened. His eyelids had been sewn open. Black thread, rough, fresh. "I swear," the attendant whispered, "that wasn't there yesterday." I believed him. Death changes its stories when no one is watching. I leaned closer. With the tip of my knife, I slipped beneath one stitch. Carefully, slowly. The thread came free without resistance. The moment I held it, the old man's mouth fell open, not by an inch, not naturally. It opened far wider than any jaw should. Something rolled onto his chest, a tiny wax doll, faceless, its mouth pierced by a long iron needle, exactly like the one Elias had found. The attendant stumbled backward. "I checked him this afternoon." That wasn't inside him. "Leave," I told him. His hand reached for the door. He never touched the handle. The lights went out, one by one. Darkness swallowed the room. Then every refrigerated drawer began to slide open, one after another. Metal grinding against metal, slowly, patiently. The sound echoed through the corridor. Screech, screech, screech. Cold air flooded the room. The attendant started praying. I told him to stop,
Some things enjoy prayers. The first drawer opened completely. A pale hand appeared, then another, then another. Every drawer revealed a single arm reaching into the darkness. Blue fingers, rigid skin, long cracked fingernails. They were not reaching for the old man. They were pointing at me. Every single one. I tightened my grip around the black thread. The room grew colder, so cold that my breath became white. Then all those fingers began tapping, not together, one after another, like dozens of invisible knuckles knocking beneath the earth. Tap, 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 tap. The rhythm grew faster until it became impossible to count. I struck a match. It died instantly. I lit another. Darkness swallowed it. The third match burned. Its flame was green. That was enough. Green fire never belongs to the living. I placed the wax doll upon the old man's chest, whispered the oldest prayer I know, not to God, to something far older than churches. The wax began to melt. The needle bent. The room shook. Every hand disappeared. Every drawer slammed shut at the same instant. The sound nearly threw us to the floor. Silence returned. Only one drawer remained open at the very end of the room, empty. A white identification tag hung from its handle. I walked closer. The attendant begged me not to. I looked anyway. Written across the tag, in fresh black ink, was my own name, Maman Sage. No one spoke. No one moved. Then I heard breathing. Not mine. Not the attendant's. Someone else's. Very close, right beside my ear. A woman's voice whispered, "You're almost too late." The lights came back. The drawer was empty. The tag was gone. Only the black thread remained in my hand. I knew then, whatever had taken Elias was no longer waiting for him. It was waiting for me.